राजा सतधन्वानमोचतु अक्रूर कृतवर्माणो मणिकस्मान्न क्रियते लब्धैतदन्तरं राजन् सतधन्वानमोचतु अक्रूर कृतवर्माणो मणिकस्मान्न गृह्यते एतदन्तरं राजन् सतधन्वानमुच्यतु अक्रूर कृतवर्माणो मणिकस्मान्न गृह्यते लब्धैतदन्तरं राजन् सतधन्वानमुच्यतु अक्रूर कृतवर्माणो मणिकस्मान्न गृह्यते लब्धैतदन्तरं राजन् सतधन्वानमुच्यतु अक्रूर कृतवर्माणो मणिकस्मान्न गृह्यते. Word to word translation and purport by disciples of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Labdhva, achieving, etad, this, antaram, opportunity, rajan, O King Parikshit, satadhanvanam, to satadhanva, uchatu, said, akrura kritavarmano, akrura and kritavarma, mani, the jewel, kasmat, why, nagrihyate, should not be taken. Translation. Taking advantage of this opportunity, O King, Akrura and Kritavarma went to Satadhanva and said, why not take the Samantaka jewel? Purport. Akrura and Kritavarma reasoned that since Krishna and Balram were absent from Dwaraka, Satyajit could be killed and the jewel stolen. Srila Sridhar Swami mentions that these two must have flattered Satadhanva, telling him, you are much braver than we are, so you kill him. Thus ends the purport. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Gananjana Shilakaya Chakshurum Nilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayang Rupa Kadamahyam Tadati Padantikam Bandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajata Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya De Satarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gauratise Namaha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpa Taru Vaishya Kripa Sindhu Vya Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnamebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim yat kripatamaham bande Shri Guru Dinatarinam Shri Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Mishwaram. Hare Krishna. I don't think there is any other pastime more sensational than this pastime of Samantaka. When I first heard this pastime, I was so thrilled that this pastime has everything that a person would desire for going to a movie. We see how Krishna in the 11th canto is instructing Uddhava, and while in the instructions, Krishna is speaking to Uddhava the story of the Avanti Brahmana. In that story, this Avanti Brahmana was an extremely wealthy man who was extremely miser. When you have wealth, then people get an innate desire from within their hearts that how nice it would be if he gives me his wealth. And what to speak of the relatives and family members? But this man, Avanti Brahmana, was such a miser. The Hindi definition of miser is called makhi chus. I used to wonder from childhood why it is called makhi chus. Really. So one definition, one of my uncle gave a definition. This is not from Bhagavatam and all, but just it fits the example of what is called makhi chus. So he says, it is his version, that even if a fly comes and sits in some item, food item, he's so attached to whatever he has that he would not even mind squeezing and licking the milk and whatever is that has stuck to the legs of the fly. Juice. Makhi juice. That was his definition. But it fits to nicely the example of a miser that he's ready to keep everything, everything for himself. And this Avanti Brahmana, somehow or other, all his relatives become against him and he becomes old, and then he's thrown out of the house. And then he speaks the words of detachment. And while he's speaking the words of detachment, he speaks how this wealth brings so much of problems and miseries. He enlists 15 problems that wealth brings. And we see in this Samantaka jewel pastime all the problems that Avanti Brahmana enlists. I would just read the exact translation by Avanti Brahmana as instructed by Krishna to Uddhava. Theft, violence, speaking lies, duplicity, lust, anger, perplexity, pride, quarreling, enmity, faithlessness, envy, dangers caused by woman, gambling, and intoxication are the 15 undesirable qualities that contaminate men because of greed for wealth. And we see how this Samantaka jewel is a case study of this principle that is being explained by Avanti Brahmana. There was theft associated with such violence. We will see now Satyajit getting murdered in the dead of the night, speaking lies, where Akrura, everyone was speaking lies and rumors, and Satyajit was speaking lies. You heard the story, right? Satyajit was speaking rumors and lies that, oh, Krishna was attached to my jewel, Krishna was attached to my jewel. Anger, perplexity, how even Akrura got perplexed. Pride, how Satyajit was feeling proud. Quarreling, enmity, Satadhanva. Just now, we would see that he would murder Satyajit. So how Srimad Bhagavatam is complete in itself? How the principles enlisted in Srimad Bhagavatam, we can see how it is happening. And this is all happening not in Kolkata. This is not happening in Mumbai. This is happening in Dwaraka, in the city, not the Dwaraka 5,000 years ago. This is happening in Dwaraka when Krishna was personally present in Dwaraka. Just think about this, what I am speaking. This principle is so very serious and grave that it can affect the residents of Dwaraka. So how much careful the residents of Calcutta and Mumbai and all other cities should be. It is just we should understand. If the wealth and the ill effects and contaminated effects of greed and for wealth can create such a disaster in Krishna's own city, when Krishna was personally present, for us it is an aropa to, because we do not have that love for Krishna, and Krishna is present, but he is in an aprakata form. Krishna was present in the most manifested form. There was no confusion that Krishna is there now. There was quite clarity that Krishna is there in Dwaraka. There was quite clarity that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Dwaraka is Krishna's own city. And within the residents of Dwaraka, so much of danger this wealth and greed for wealth can create. Now definitely this is just a pastime, eternal pastime of Krishna, just to tell us some lessons. But what lessons we derive is this, that if residents of Dwaraka, living within Dwaraka, in the presence of Krishna can get such affected by this principle of the 15 undesirable qualities for the greed of wealth, how much when we are living in the dead of the in the center of the city with all types of materialistic endeavors, how much we should be careful in this principle of what Avanti Brahmana is speaking about, the principle, the ill effects of wealth. So, wealth or any other resource in itself is neither good or bad. But if that resource of wealth is not having the right realizations, if it does not have that right realizations, then it will create simply misery and entanglement, that which created in the life of Satyajit. So today we will see for next half an hour what is that realization that is required, what is that wisdom that is required, so that wealth, which is so important, definitely we don't live for wealth, but we cannot live without wealth. Even brahmacharis, we require wealth. Even we see that all the brahmacharis are satisfying, conforming, yes, certifying. Even the great sages would go to, we hear that they would go to Raghu, they would go to the Ramachandra and all the great kings just to get wealth, to beg for the wealth, for their sacrifices. So, wealth or any other resource is not good or bad. But when the wealth does not have the right realizations, it doesn't have the right wisdom, it creates these undesirable qualities that we see in this pastime. So, the first principle is wealth without principles. Yesterday, His Grace Acharya Ratna Prabhu was telling the story from Mahabharata. It was so nice to hear the story of how duplicitous, diplomatic Duryodhana was, and as the previous verse is speaking. And we see how, with all the diplomacy and all, finally Yudhishthir Maharaj and all the Pandavas, they were finally sent to exile. So when the Pandavas went to exile, they were just going. It was exactly the scene in Hastinapur was exactly the scene when Lord Ramachandra was leaving from Ayodhya for the exile. It was so painful. All the residents were just cursing and cursing and cursing Duryodhana. They were cursing Bhishma. They were cursing everyone. And Yudhishthir Maharaj fell at the feet of all the residents and begged to them not to accompany with him. But the Brahmanas were so attached to Yudhishthir Maharaj that they were just going, and Yudhishthir Maharaj was pleading again and again, but they were not listening. And since Yudhishthir Maharaj considered himself as always the servant of the Brahmanas, he had no power to stop them. They were just going and going, and it happened that they went almost far of distance and it became night. They all took rest, and all the Brahmanas took rest with Yudhishthir and the other four brothers and Draupadi. Early in the morning, all the Brahmanas, they get up and they do all their duties. And Yudhishthir Maharaj gets up. Seeing all the Brahmanas doing their duties, Yudhishthir Maharaj feels extremely distressed. And he comes and addresses the Brahmanas that, my dear Brahmanas, we are going to go to the forest now. This is almost the end of human habitation. And beyond this, the most deep forest is going to come, and we are going. Jai Shri Shri Nitai Gauranga Ki. Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki. Nitai Gaur Premanande. And as we go ahead, we will be simply sustaining with some roots and fruits. I beg to you, please go back to the city. Please live peacefully. And the Brahmanas said, this sort of life is for us, not for you. We would accompany with you. And Yudhishthira Maharaj just fell down, putting his hand on his head and crying and praying. Oh, what providence is this? I have nothing to offer to these Brahmanas in charity. And Yudhishthira said again, please don't come with me. We have nothing to give you. And all the Brahmanas, they said, Yudhishthira, we just want to stay within your heart. We will beg. We will not beg anything. We will also collect some fruits and roots. Please allow us to come with you. And then Yudhishthira Maharaj felt again completely depressed and sits down, and seeing his depression, one of the Brahmana called Saunaka, he comes up to encourage, to give principles of detachment to Yudhishthira. Detachment from wealth. He speaks the principles of Sankhya Yoga, and he also speaks exactly what is there in this pages of Bhagavatam. How wealth brings all undesirable things. The men with right wisdom should not aspire for the wealth, and gives a big sermon on wealth and undesirable effects of the wealth. And Yudhishthira Maharaj patiently hears the sermon. And after the end, Yudhishthira completely disagrees and tells to Saunaka, you are completely wrong. My desire for wealth is not for my own enjoyment. It is for the service of the Brahmanas. That is why this desire will not create any of the ill effects that you have mentioned. And Saunaka was simply enlightened by this. This is the power of a devotee. And Saunaka, he came to inspire Yudhishthira. With Yudhishthira Maharaj's remark, he got himself inspired. And he said, you are right. When wealth is accumulated for the right principle of service, it does not create these undesirable effects that we see in this pastime, or that is being explained by Avanti Brahmana. And Yudhishthira Maharaj is suggested by Saunaka to meet his guru, Kuluguru Dhaumya Rishi. And Yudhishthira Maharaj goes to Dhaumya and prays that, what should I do? These Brahmanas are so attached to me, and I am so attached to them, and they keep on glorifying Krishna, and I am so attached to Krishna, and just we can't live without each other. But it's the duty of Kshatriya to give charity to the Brahmanas, but I have nothing. What do I do? How do I forget about giving charity? How do I feed them? I'm a grihastha. How can I eat any fruits and roots when the Brahmanas are just starving? Then it is Dhaumya Rishi in this chapter of Bana Parva suggested Yudhishthira to worship Lord Suryadev. And when Yudhishthira worshipped Lord Suryadev, practiced did some austerities, Suryadev was pleased and brought the Akshay Patra. And which Akshay Patra was feeding so many hundreds and hundreds of Brahmanas every day, while Yudhishthir and all the Pandavas were in exile for almost 13 years, 12 years. So we see in this pastime, it is Suryadev who gifted Satyajit this Syamantaka jewel. And in this pastime in Mahabharata, it is also Suryadev who gifted the Akshay Patra. Sometimes we read that it's the problem of the demigods. You know, the demigods, when they give any benedictions, that creates problem. But it is not that when a demigod gives you a benediction, you will land up into problem. It is the problem of our heart. Krishna says, Kamestester hritagyana prapadyante anya devataha. Sometimes we just put all the blame on the demigods. But it is the principles in our heart which create the problem. The gopis worship demigods, Katyayani. These demigods can offer resources, but what effect the resource will create in our life is based not on the resources, not on the demigods who are giving the resources. It is based on the principles in which we will utilize the resource. Satyajit was offered the resource of the copper of the Samantaka jewel, and Yudhishthir was offered the resource of the Akshay Patra. Both from the same personality, Suryadev. But you see how a completely different effect that was created because of the lack of principles in Satyajit and because of the right principles of service that Yudhishthir Maharaj had. When the jewel came, and we read in the past time when the jewel came, and Krishna knew this, that Satyajit doesn't have that principle. Krishna suggested Satyajit, please give it to the king who can utilize it for the service of others. It's a danger. But Satyajit thought, oh, Krishna is envious of me. So this is the problem that Satyajit had. The wealth that came from the Samantaka jewel, it didn't have the right principle, and that's why it's so much created. It's not that the wealth didn't have the right principle, but Satyajit rejected Lord's advice so that this Samantaka jewel can be utilized in the service to give it to the king. The king is representative of all the citizens. And whatever gold that would have been created from this Samantaka jewel could have been nicely distributed for welfare of all the citizens, and even Satyajit also would have got it. Because he is also a citizen under Ugrasen. But just see, because of this greed of Satyajit, how he will now be mercilessly murdered. So this is the first principle that we need to learn, how wealth without having the right principles of service creates these undesirable effects. So the first is wealth without principle creates these effects. And the second principle is wealth without patience. Even if we may start with right principles, but we need to have the patience and perseverance. to accumulate wealth. If we do not have the patience, definitely our principles we will get diluted. It will get diluted by the undesirable quality called envy. Modern society wants wealth and wants wealth in the easiest form. Just sit in home, put some money that you have in some investments, and automatically some money will generate. And we see that those money that gets generated through shortcut methods of just sitting and doing something whatever people do, and just gives an illusion of virtual increase of their wealth, it simply brings anxiety. Because that wealth lacks the perseverance and patience. Dhruva Maharaj actually wanted wealth. Dhruva Maharaj wanted so much of resource. Can anyone desire resource more than Dhruva Maharaj? So much of resource, beyond even Brahma. But when Narad Muni approached him, Dhruva Maharaj said, Ki, I want an honest path to accumulate wealth and resource. I do not want a dishonest diplomatic path, just like Duryodhana did. I just want an honest path. So wealth also needs to have that patience. The person who wants to accumulate wealth, if he lacks the patience, he will definitely get affected by this envy. He would want that this person has become wealthy, I should also become wealthy, but he fails to see how this person, because of whatever austerities he performed, he has got the wealth. And this is what was problem with Satadhanva. This Mr. Satadhanva, Satrajit is having a problem. He's having a different problem. He's having the first problem, the problem of having wealth without principle. But Mr. Satadhanva, as we're going to see, why he got affected. He knows, if I do anything, this is Krishna's kingdom. This is Dwaraka. Krishna has killed Jarasandha. Krishna has killed Kamsa. Who am I? Is it not that Satvadhanva was not aware? It's only we are reading Bhagavatam. Satadhanva was seeing Bhagavatam right away. He was there in Mathura, maybe shifted to Dwaraka. He saw how the Yadus who had fled here and there in fear of Kamsa, they all came back because of this Krishna. How powerful is he? But because he had this problem in his heart, he wanted Syamantaka without going through the perseverance that Satrajit went through to get Syamantaka. Why I have to worship sun god to get Syamantaka? I would get it by killing Satrajit. Interesting. Yes. So Satrajit, he was affected by the evil qualities of wealth because he accumulated wealth without the principle of service. And Satadhanva, who was mercilessly murdered, he didn't have the patience, he didn't wanted to go through the perseverance of worshipping sun god, of getting the jewel, or getting the resource or wealth or gold or whatever it is from the right source. We see this is the mood of the spiritual world. We hear when Brahmaji is seeing the vision of the spiritual world, Brahmaji is saying, Yat Sankulam Haripada Natamatra Drishte Vaidurya Marakata Hema Maer Vimane. What to speak of any other thing? One would get golden aeroplane, which goes in the speed of the mind, with the desire of the mind, not with the petrol and gasoline, studded with diamonds and lapis lazuli. I don't know what it is, Vaidurya. I have till now not seen a diamond. What to speak of Vaidurya? So, one would get it just by surrendering. Hari pada nata matra drishte. One obtains this. This is what Satadhanva was missing. Satadhanva was missing. Either you persevere to get it from demigods, or you just go to Krishna and Krishna will give you. Yes. And he was missing both. And he thought he is very, very intelligent. As the Avanti Brahmana says, perplexity. He got perplexed. So in this way, wealth which is accumulated without the necessary perseverance and patience creates this undesirable effect what Satadhanva went through. Satrajit faced the problem because he wanted to accumulate Samantaka, and he had a problem with the principle of service, principle of rejecting the Lord's advice to give it to the king. And Satadhanva had the problem to accumulate the wealth without going through the necessary perseverance. He was simply envious. Okay, even if you are envious, at least if you would have persevered, at least you would have chanted some names of Surya Dev. At least Surya Dev might have said, I will give you, do a little more. But he didn't do anything. He thought, if I murdered, I'll get. Similarly, modern society also wants to accumulate wealth for nothing. Just sit in house. Everyone, all the citizens of the world, everyone desires that I will just sit and wealth will come. And that wealth accumulated through just sitting creates only these undesirable effects, or it will create all these perplexities that you may try to cheat, be duplicitous, and all those things. And the last principle is wealth without purpose of serving Krishna creates these ill effects. Even if one has the right principles, even if one goes through the perseverance, we see Vyasdev. He wrote all the Vedas. What Vedas contain? Vedas contain the knowledge of getting wealth through the right principles. Vedas contains of getting wealth through the right perseverance. You do this, you'll get this, you'll do this, you'll get this. But even the writer of the Vedas, speaking about the right principles of getting material enjoyment, speaking about the right perseverance involved in getting the material enjoyment through the Vedas, is himself disturbed. Because it's not the principles and perseverance and patience which brings contentment and satisfaction. Is it what, when it is offered to Krishna with love, that brings contentment and satisfaction? So even if wealth has the principles, even if wealth accumulated with the right perseverance, but if that wealth lacks this sacred purity of offering it with the right purpose of serving Krishna, the Supreme Lord, it would never bring any satisfaction.
It may not bring the undesirable effects,
but it will not bring satisfaction and contentment. So that is why in this Srimad Bhagavatam, as we go ahead, we will see Yudhishthir Maharaj, he also accumulated so much of gold. He accumulated so much of gold and so many things just to perform a Rajasuya sacrifice. And the basis of this Rajasuya sacrifice was to not accumulate gold. The basis of Rajasuya sacrifice was to glorify Krishna. When such a grand sacrifice is done, when so much of endeavor is done, when all the kings are informed, when all the kings are accepting the sovereignty of Yudhishthir, Yudhishthir Maharaj did this Rajasuya sacrifice solely and wholly. He accumulated lot of gold, lot of wealth, lot of resources which is required for performance of this Rajasuya sacrifice, not for his own glorification. His desire was simply to glorify Krishna. And that is why we see it brought so much of satisfaction and contentment among everyone except Duryodhana and Sisupal. One, Sisupal was delivered right away. Duryodhana took some time to be delivered. But it brought contentment. So the wealth, even if it has the right principles in this world of selfless service, even if it is accumulated with perseverance, it should also have the right purpose to create the contentment and satisfaction. Right purpose of serving Krishna. And we see the same story of Akshay Patra so much relevant to this principle. We see Akshay Patra, it had the capacity to give so much of food that can feed hundreds and thousands of people, the Brahmanas. But as soon as Draupadi would eat it, stopped. It would exhaust. That's what Suryadev said. And we see how Duryodhana got envious and he sent, you all know the story, how Duryodhana sent 60,000 disciples and Durvasa Muni to get service from Yudhishthir. And after Draupadi has eaten and they all the Pandavas landed up into such problem. And they desperately prayed to Krishna, and Krishna appeared, and Krishna asked Draupadi, I am hungry, give me food. And Draupadi thought, I was not able to serve the Brahmanas, and now I cannot serve Krishna. And Krishna asks for the Akshay Patra, the copper bowl. And in that patra there is little broken rice, or some people say it was little sak. No one knows what it is. Only when we meet Draupadi ji will I can ask. So, but whatever it is, a little morsel was there. And Krishna ate that little morsel and he satisfied 60,000 disciples along with Durvasa Muni, who is very difficult to satisfy. Whole wealth of the universe cannot satisfy Durvasa Muni, but that morsel, when offered to Krishna, satisfied 60,000 disciples along with Durvasa Muni. So this pastime shows that even if we do not have wealth, we can be contented, we can be satisfied. It's not about the amount of wealth, it's not about the quantity of wealth that brings satisfaction in our life. It is about the quality of love in which it is offered to Krishna that this wealth can bring satisfaction. If one has a single paisa, one can be satisfied of having billions of rupees if he offers that paisa to Krishna. And if one has billions of rupees,
he can be completely frustrated
if he wants to utilize it for his own purpose. And that is why Biswanath Chakravarti Thakur, in just this previous chapter, the last sloka, where Satyajit is coming and offering the Syamantaka jewel, and because he has offended Krishna of spreading the rumors, he offers Satyabhama in hand for marriage with Krishna. And Krishna says that you are devotee of sun god, you keep the Syamantaka, but I will keep your Satyabhama. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that Krishna recognized the real jewel. That is Satyabhama. Because the real jewel is the jewel of love. Is the jewel of love which gives golden reciprocations. Not that Syamantaka jewel which gives gold of this world. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that Krishna recognized this, seeing the wonderful jewel-like qualities of Satyabhama, which would create in his life the gold of loving reciprocations. And we hear how, what all loving pastimes Satyabhama with Satyabhama happened henceforward. So Krishna, knowing it, Krishna kept Satyabhama and said that you can take your jewel back. So we should understand that the real wealth is prema dhan, the love for Krishna. The real wealth is not of this world. The real wealth is not this jewel. The wealth of this world simply creates problems. But the wealth of love creates satisfaction and loving reciprocations with Krishna. So this pastime of Samantaka jewel, it shows both the aspects of how when the wealth is accumulated with not having the right principles and patience and perseverance, how disastrous effects it can create. And it also shows the effects of rejecting Lord's advice and not using the wealth for the purpose of serving Krishna, which Satyajit did. Hence, if we really want, it's not about the wealth that we have. It's about recognizing how we can utilize this wealth with the right principles, with the right perseverance and patience, and with the right purpose to serve Lord Krishna. Understanding that when the wealth of this world is done with these three things of the principle, perseverance, and purpose, this wealth will create the real wealth, that is love for the Supreme Lord. Otherwise, it will simply create these 15 undesirable things, qualities that is mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam, enlisted by Avanti Brahmana and instructed by Krishna in the 11th canto. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Shri Shamantaka Mani Leela ki, Srila Sukadeva Goswami ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Samaveta Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki.